Hey, it's Sri here, and in today's video, I'm going to talk you through what you need to do if you're asking yourself the question, what can I do to fix my husband? Now, before we dive in, I know that, if your husband is going through a really difficult time in his life and you're noticing he's quite emotional, that can stir up a lot of emotions inside of you, and it might make you feel like you really want to try and, get him to shift and get him to change, and it's creating a lot of emotion on the inside for you. Now, if you are in that place where you're just feeling really uncertain and not sure what steps you need to take, then I'd love to be of service to you. All you need to do is, if you do want to speak to me personally, then just in the description section below, you'll see a link that just says book a call with me. Just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, and then I'll contact you at that scheduled time, just so I can learn a little bit more about where you're at and where he's at as well. And I don't need to speak to him, it's just to understand from your perspective where you think he's at. And then from there, what I can do is I can give you some pointers, some tips on how to actually move forward and to progress on your journey together. Now make sure you hit the subscribe button below and click on that bell notification as well, so every week you get access to my latest videos teaching you specifics on what you need to do in order to be able to save your marriage, to recover from any infidelity, and really learn about male psychology as well, so you can really have an impact and influence your husband in the best possible way. Now, as I mentioned, if your husband is in a situation where he potentially wants to make this marriage work, but he's in a really emotional place, he might be working heaps, he might be in this headspace where he's just really emotional and kind of feels like he's a bit of a failure and feels inadequate on some level, and you see that behavior and you're thinking to yourself, well, what can I do to try and get him to shift? What can I do to help him to heal? Because you see, inside of you, you're going to be feeling this massive love towards him, and the fact that he's in a dark space is going to make you want to put even more work in to help him, to serve him, to do what you can to be able to maximize his growth and his own healing through a really difficult time. And so if your husband is in this place, these steps that you need to take right now are going to be really important for you to be able to move forward and to be able to connect with your husband in the best possible way. Now, before I jump into these steps, I really want to explain one point that I think is really important, and that is, it's not your responsibility to change him. A lot of people feel like in their marriage that's their duty and that they're supposed to be actually, shifting their husband. But with all of us as individuals, the one person that we can control is ourselves, and we have to do the healing for ourselves. And I can tell you in my own life, there have been lots of people in my life at different stages who I can see they're in a really dark space. I can see that they're suffering. And, I've tried all the tools and the techniques and so forth on them to change. But if they don't want to change, then it makes it very, very difficult. And so that's the key point here, is that you've actually got to want to make the change. You've got to want to create shifts. And a lot of the time, people get addicted to their own pain. It's such a strange comment to make, but I can tell you now, a lot of people want to stay in that place because they don't know any different. They've been living in this pain for such a long time. And because that's what's normal to them and maybe has been their experience for a large chunk of their life, they don't know what's different. It's almost like the person who wins the lottery. They've gone from not having much money at all to suddenly having millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they don't know what it's like. They haven't developed the identity of someone who is actually wealthy. So what do they end up doing? They blow it, or they self-sabotage on some level, or they end up feeling extremely depressed because, as I said, they haven't got that identity of someone who is wealthy. And it's the same thing when it comes to personal growth, is that if we don't know what life is like to be happy and it doesn't feel like the norm, a lot of the time we will stay in a place where we're stuck, where we'll stay feeling emotional and feeling down about things and not wanting to change it, even though at times you might say, oh, no, I really want to change. But when you look at their actions, they're actually doing nothing to really back up that talk. So a point I wanted to make before I discuss these steps is that he's actually got to want to change. Now, despite me saying that it's not your responsibility to actually create the shifts in him, I do believe that it's possible to influence people in a way where it leads them down a path where they realize that they actually need to shift. And so what I'll do now is I'll explain to you two really important steps that you need to take in order to be able to influence your partner in the best possible way, so that it encourages him to actually really embark on this journey of healing. Now, the first step that you need to make sure you take is to make sure that what you're wanting to bring on the outside is actually on your inside as well. Now, if we want to experience more love, we have to feel that love on the inside. If we want to experience more abundance on the outside, we've got to feel more abundance on the inside. If we want to experience more joy on the outside, we need to experience more joy on the inside. See, life is a mirror. So if your husband is in this really dark place and you're also in that really dark space and you're getting frustrated at him and annoyed that he's not stepping up, then you're not actually creating a situation where you're fostering that sort of behavior. We need to remember that as human beings, what we feel on the inside ultimately ends up being what we experience on the external level as well. So if you're wanting to really see more changes in your husband, then you need to make sure that you're giving as much love as you can, but you're also feeling that genuine love on the inside within you. Now, these are somewhat spiritual principles, if you like, but it is so, so important. We've got to remember that if we want to create shifts on the outside, we've got to create those shifts on the inside to start with. It's just the way it works. And I can tell you now in my life, whenever I've needed to make changes and see shifts in other people, the first person I've had to try and change is me first. And that doesn't mean that I was broken or anything. It just means that I need to connect them with the love inside of me. Now, does that mean that we're just constantly giving and giving and giving and giving? No, absolutely not. It means that we have to give to ourselves. We've got to fill our own bucket up. And then what happens is when we do that, we step into an energy of compassion. We feel what they're going through and we're sending good energy and we're sending good vibes. And obviously taking certain actions that are going to help them on their path as well. But we're not getting frustrated because we're like, oh, that person is going through a really difficult time and I know the answer, but I just can't get them to change. Because then what happens is we're fostering frustration and anger. And when we hold on to that, there's no way we can impact that person in the best possible way. We've got to come from a place of love and empathy. And if we don't, like I say, we just continue to foster that negativity. And I find that people don't change when we're operating in that place. But when we're in a really good place and we're stepping into faith and love and compassion and all of those positive energies, it has a really positive impact on other people. And I've seen it time and time again that when individuals start to shift themselves and create the shifts because you are the centerpiece of your life, then that starts to impact those around us as well. Now, the second step that you need to take is to start planting seeds. Now, what I mean by that is that if we try and impose ourselves on other people, if we try and force certain behaviors onto other people, what happens? There's resistance. Now, think about a used car salesman. Just the thought of it turns them off completely when it comes to wanting to go and buy a car, because you know that you're going to walk in there and they're going to be trying to get you to, test drive the car and put down small deposits or whatever it may be, and it's going to frustrate you. However, if they take the time to understand where you're at, to empathize with where you're at, to just, every now and then just plant little seeds or, really understand where you're coming from an emotional perspective, from a practical life situation perspective and so on, then you're more likely to want to go and buy from that person. And it's the same thing in marriages. When people try and impose themselves, to try and force them to change, oh, please come to counseling with me, you need to do this, it's really important, I know you're going through a tough time, but you've got to do this. That person's going to resist it because it feels like there's something wrong with them. And men in particular don't want to be told what to do. They want to be in a situation where they come up with the idea. And this is the key point. If they have come up with the idea to work on such and such or check out a certain video or whatever, and it helps them, then it makes them feel more important. But if it feels like someone else has done it for them, then they're going to feel inadequate and insignificant and like they don't have the actual skill set. So what I encourage people to do is to plant seeds. And what I mean by that is every now and then you might, if he's in a dark space, you might say, hey, listen, hun, I was watching this video the other day and it was just really beneficial and it might be something you might be interested in. Or I was reading this book the other day and it was really, really helpful for me. You might want to check it out. Now, the key thing with this is that you just say it and then no matter what the response is, you just leave it. But if you continue to be like, have you read that book? Have you watched that video? Or whatever it may be, then he's going to get frustrated. He's going to feel like he's being controlled. But if every now and then you just plant a seed, it makes an ocean of difference. I recall years ago, like one of my really good friends, was going through a tough time. And every now and then he'd make certain comments and act like, he knew lots about personal growth and personal development and, different programs that I'd been on, and sort of make comments like, oh, look, I already know that stuff and things like that. And I could tell at that time that that was just his ego taking over. But I made sure that I didn't force or impose anything on him. I just, every now and then I made comments like, oh yeah, it was quite a good course. I think you'd actually really like it. Or, I was reading this book, it's really interesting. It might be something you might be interested in. And I just every now and then planted seeds. And what I found was that he slowly over time started to warm to those things. And yep, it took a bit of time, but he got there in the end. And one of the comments he actually made a couple of years back was how much he appreciated the fact that I never forced anything upon him. It was that I just, every now and then I would make little comments here and there, and he slowly got there. And now he's made the most remarkable shifts. So you've got to plant seeds. Planting seeds is the most important thing that you can actually do when it comes to a husband who is going through a tough time, is in a dark space, kind of wants to work on things, but isn't really sure what to do as well. It's really important. So don't force anything upon them. Just be patient. Take small little steps in the right direction. And then if there are moments where, he's at a place where he's in a really low spot and you feel like you really need to step in, okay, then might be time to actually step and say, hun, you need to do this. You need to go and see this person. You need to talk to this person. You need to read this book, whatever it may be. But it's important to take your time and be patient with it and keep planting those seeds. It is really, really powerful stuff when you can actually take your time with that. Now, I know that, trying to work your way through it, trying to know the right time to say things, the way to say it, how to say it with the right tonality, and all of that stuff is really difficult at times. And so, sometimes it might be a case of, needing a little bit more support, a little bit more guidance on this journey as well. So if you are in that place and you're not sure what to do and you're struggling and you feel like you're just really battling on a daily basis, then I'm telling you now, actually getting the support and help from someone who's had a lot of experience can be really beneficial. So if you are looking around and you don't feel like, the current support structures that you have are quite doing it for you, then I'd love to be of service to you. And I normally do that through my program, The Authentic Relationship System, which is an incredible program geared towards helping women who are going through some really tough times in their marriage really heal themselves, recover from infidelity, and really learn a lot about male psychology as well. And once you do that, once you shift within, it's amazing the transformation that can occur. So if you are in a place where you're wanting to learn a little bit more about it and see if it's something that's a good fit for you, then all you need to do is in the description section below, just click on that link where it says book a call with me. Just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, and then I'll contact you at that scheduled time just to see if I can help, see if it's a good fit for you. And then if it is, then I'll make sure I give you all the details on how you can be a part of it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've liked it, make sure you hit the like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And do let me know what your biggest takeaway is from this video as well. I always love getting the comments from a lot of my viewers, and I'll make sure that I respond to every single one of them as well. And if you want to learn how to save a broken marriage, just click this video above. And if you want to learn why your husband gives you mixed messages, click this video above. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you in the next video.